I thought I'd give you a few tips today on building confidence in a fearful or nervous dog. I've got a nervous guy myself, Fenway. He is my younger guy. He's about 1.5. He's a purebred border collie, and he's just a little bit sketched out about life sometimes. We're out on a walk right now, and we found a little shady spot, so I thought I'd pull over and list off a few tips that work well for him and other clients that I work with as well. So the number one thing is consistency. I think with our nervous guys, keeping like a consistent schedule or even going on the exact same route on your walks can be really helpful for them. It builds kind of a sense of security in that way. Whenever we stick to the same plan every single time, our dogs then know what to expect out of a given situation. So consistency can involve coming to the exact same spot. If you're working on taking your dog out and about different places with you, it could involve taking them to the exact same location. That might be around your neighborhood, it might be the same route around your neighborhood, it might be in a park setting like this, coming to the same field at one end of the park and not exploring the other end for the time being. What this essentially does is it builds a confidence in your dog to know what to expect whenever they get to the park, because in their heads they are thinking something potentially bad might happen to me because I do not know what to expect out of the situation. It's new and I have not had time to acclimate to it. So until they get to the point where they are acclimated to it and they know that they can trust you in that situation, nothing bad is going to happen, making sure that things are consistent can be really helpful. So taking the same route or going to the same part of the park, making sure that you're going during times initially that aren't super busy, and if people approach you and other dogs approach you and that tends to make your dogs a little bit nervous, making sure that you're scanning the environment like I'm doing right here to make sure that nobody approaches us. That makes my guy a little bit worried and a little bit nervous, so I'm making sure that we're keeping plenty of distance from things that do kind of make him nervous. And then in those same situations, I'm also bringing high value food with me. I've got my little bag here. I've got a ball for him and I have chicken, just boiled chicken. So he gets reinforcement. Here you go, buddy. Good boy, good boy. So he gets reinforcement while we're out here, just whenever he wants it, quite honestly. But I compare, he's actually watching the kids way off in the distance over there. I don't know if you guys can see that. No, you can't even see that. It's way off in the distance, but there's a playground over there that people are at and kids are playing at, and he's kind of watching that calmly. We're at a really far distance away, but I can give him chicken for that. I can reinforce him for choosing to watch situations happening calmly, and I am going to help him trust me in this situation as well by communicating to him that if he's not comfortable, I'm not going to ask him to move any closer. If he is comfortable and he wants to, then great, we will. But in order for him to have trust in me in this setting and in this situation, he needs to know that I'm not going to put him in a situation that he can't handle or that he's going to get uncomfortable about. So keeping that in mind and making sure that, again, I'm advocating for him, so I'm not setting him up to fail in different situations and in different settings like this. So the other thing that I'm bringing into this with me, but I also do at home, is add enrichment into Fenn's life. Enrichment is great for a lot of different reasons. It boosts his confidence, teaches him how to work independently from me. It teaches him how to investigate different small spaces and stick his nose into it, which helps build confidence. It brings out play, and whenever we bring out play in our dogs, play is a really good accurate representation of how your dog is feeling. If they're able to play with you in a setting, that means that they're not too fearful about a situation, which is good. So I use fetch with Fenn as a means to tell how he's feeling about a situation, because I know that that's a game that is really reinforcing to him, he really likes, and he will not be capable of playing if he was uncomfortable. So I do use the ball as a reward for him in a lot of different contexts, but an actual game of fetch is something that I'll use to gauge how he's feeling in a different in different situations. So adding enrichment in at home, whether that's puzzle toys, whether it's games, whether it's tug, fetch, whatever it might be, there's a lot of different ways that we can add enrichment in. Then bringing that with me and making it portable and bringing it to a park setting like this can really give me a solid understanding of how he's feeling about a situation, and I can use it to change his opinions about a situation. If I know that there's nothing actually scary going on, I will use fetch as a means to help him feel more comfortable about a situation, as long as it's actually not dangerous. And I say dangerous to mean basically as long as, you know, there's not a ton of off-leash dogs around. I wouldn't pull out the ball and play fetch then, knowing that those dogs would approach and then he would be like, see, I was right, it is actually scary here. If there's nothing going on, I can use that game to boost his confidence in a situation like this. So if your dog really likes to play, whether it's with toys or with you, trying your best to kind of bring out their silly side, and that is a huge form of enrichment for our dogs anyways. It gets them to relax, it gets them to like take that breath of just air and be able to like take information in a different way. And at least Fenn, but I know a lot of dogs, but Fenn especially latches onto emotions attached to a particular location. So if I can get him to relax and play in an environment like this, that goes a whole long way for me. So enrichment for your dogs might look a little bit different, but you can consider bringing it into a situation like this. For another dog, I might do treat scatters. I might take a piece of chicken and I might toss it into the grass for him to then find. He's using his nose that way. We're using food as a means to reinforce him as well, and we're kind of distracting him in a way, like, hey, let's just play this fun treat scatter game in the grass instead of focusing on the stuff that's around us. So that can be a good way to boost your dog's confidence in an environment like this as well. And look, now he's kind of wanting more of that. For Fenn, this also helps build food motivation because he's not a hugely food motivated dog. So if he can take food in a situation, that's something that also tells me that he's feeling pretty good, which is fantastic. So getting him to take food is good. I always bring food and toys along with me, and I'm reinforcing him throughout. Training is a great way to boost your dog's confidence. It also builds a huge trust level with you as well. If we get our dogs to focus on us and work with us, whether it's tricks, whether it's basic obedience, whatever it might be, they're going to be able to focus in on you a whole lot better in a given situation, no matter where you're at. If you're doing training out and about, if you're doing training at home with them, whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be basic obedience. It can be fun tricks. Teach what you want to teach. If you have fun with it, then your dog is going to have fun with it as well. It's going to build their confidence in that situation as well. Hi, buddy. What do you see over there? So Fenn is smelling something over here, so I'm going to kind of toss some chicken out this way to reinforce and redirect his attention this way a little bit. You had a good boy. Can you down? Go, buddy. Very nice. The training also comes in handy whenever you're out and about with your dog. I also use the tricks that he's learned to gauge his confidence in a situation as well. If he can offer behaviors like this, if he can offer me one paw up, if he can offer me a nose touch, then that also tells me where his head is at and how he's feeling about a situation. So that can be a good gauge for me to tell, you know, how he's doing about different things. So, you know, a lot of this I'm talking about like being out and about, but this might all be stuff that you start at with your dogs at home. Maybe they're working their way up to a situation like this, but even just coming and doing what I'm doing right here and sitting, like picking a location in the park that you're at or on your walk or something and just sitting and letting your dog take everything in. That's my next tip, is letting them just kind of take in the world. Let them observe everything, making sure that you're at a safe distance from everything that might be potentially scary to them, and, you know, advocating for them when you need to, moving them when you need to. There is somebody who just pulled up in the next field over with an off-leash dog, which is fine. We just might move here in a moment, but making sure, I totally lost my train of thought. But pulling up to a, situation like this and rewarding your dogs for looking at the kids playing at the playground, looking at the dogs walking by, looking at the people playing a soccer game at a great distance away initially, and not forcing them into that situation and just letting them watch and observe, having things like chicken and reinforcing them, having a tennis ball, playing tug with them, doing a training session with them, and then you leave and go home and you don't go further into that potentially scary situation. That builds a huge amount of confidence in your dog, and it builds a lot of trust with them in you as well as their owner, that they know that you're not going to force them into a situation that they're not comfortable with. And they will tell you over time what they are comfortable with. So, a big thing is watching your dog's body language. Fenn is smelling something right here that, yeah, good boy, that he's a little bit unsure of. I wouldn't say that he's nervous about it, but he's a little unsure about. So I think we're going to move to a different location and make him feel a little bit more comfortable. And I'm just not certain where this off-leash dog is. So we're gonna probably move to a different location and pick this back up. So a lot of these tips that I'm talking about all kind of have to do with the setup of how you set up a situation, but I think that goes a really long way when it comes to actually building trust in your dog. The biggest thing to help them be more confident is, number one, making sure that they can trust you. And a lot of times our fearful and nervous dogs kind of get pushed into a lot of situations because we have the best intentions as people and we're trying to get them through things and get them over it. Like, oh, maybe if they just experience it more, they'll get past it. But usually that tends to make things a whole lot worse for our dogs. So if you set your intentions up right in order for them to succeed and going intentionally at their pace, that is the biggest tip that I have, is go at your dog's pace and set them up to succeed. Don't set them up to fail. If you're seeing that they are nervous, that they are wanting to move away from a situation, that they're shutting down, that they're actually starting to show some signs of reactivity or aggression or anything like that, you've pushed them a little bit too far, and that's okay, it happens, but make sure that you're reading your dog and you're understanding when they're starting to get uncomfortable about a situation, and you're honoring that and you're leaving that situation. The trust that I've built up with Fenn at this point is what has hugely increased his confidence, is he trusts me not to put him in a situation where he's gonna fail or he's gonna get totally freaked out. I don't do that to him, and a lot of that alone has boosted his confidence tenfold. So making sure that you're setting your dog up right is a massive tip that I have, and that just takes time. That just takes time and a whole lot of practice and a lot of different contexts and environments that your dog is comfortable with for them to start to understand that you're not going to put them in a situation that they're uncomfortable with. And then we're doing all of those other things on the side. We're doing training with them, we're doing enrichment with them. That's a huge way to build your bond with your dog in a really positive way that doesn't involve a potentially scary situation and taking them into that. Making sure you're not always pushing them to be in a situation that they're a little bit uncomfortable with, but you're trying to get them used to it. Have a decompression spot. I've got a park for us that is not a park that pushes Fenn whatsoever. It's one that we go to all the time. He's comfortable completely in it. And I go there several times a week. So there are days that I take with him that are breaks, and intentional break days. So we don't go to a new park. We don't go to a park like this and work on stuff, even though this has turned into a decompression spot for him. He does really well here now. That was not the case at first. But making sure that we're also giving our dogs breaks throughout the week, I think that can be a really helpful thing when we're trying to push them in other situations and in other contexts. Also give them a break, because they kind of need that. That's a lot like us as people too. Know that your dog is gonna have off days. They're gonna have good days, bad days. That's okay. If they're having a bad day, take them home, try again another day. So slow and steady wins the race when it comes to our fearful and nervous dogs is you have to win over their trust in order to make any significant progress. And I think that trust goes a long way with safety as well. Trust and safety are the same thing when we're talking about our nervous and fearful dogs. If they trust you that you're not going to set them up to fail and you're not going to put them in a situation that they deem unsafe, that goes hand in hand. So making sure that, you know, we're taking safety into account when we're setting our dogs up to succeed can be a huge thing as well. If you're trying to work in a situation that is difficult for your dog, making sure that they know they have an out. I use the car for that for Fenn initially. It's kind of like his mobile safety zone. If he got out and he looked around and he was like, no thank you, I allowed him to jump back into the car, and he could observe from the car however long he wanted to until he felt comfortable and safe enough and trusted me enough to be able to jump out again. And if he ever got uncomfortable, I would intentionally stay near the car so he could run back to the car if he wanted to. And pretty soon, with Fenn, especially as he built his trust in me, I became his portable safety zone. So he no longer needs the car. He trusts me to get him out of a situation, and he'll come station by me when he's uncomfortable. But the car can be if you're out and about with your dog, a good mobile version of your home essentially, and allowing your dogs to remove themselves and retreat is an okay thing to do. We can give them lots of encouragement for moving forwards and choosing to explore. We can play, we can do enrichment games, treat scatters in the grass, do training, do tricks, all this different stuff. And again, setting them up right so there's not a ton of people around, there's not a ton of dogs. We can encourage them that way to explore a little bit more over a period of time, but also letting them retreat. It feels like you're not making forward progress, that I can tell you that from experience, but it actually is almost taking 2 steps back in order to gain 12 steps forwards. It gives your dog an understanding that they have a choice, and if they want out, they can get out. And making sure that they know that, I think, can be a really helpful thing for a lot of dogs initially when they're working their way up to this kind of stuff. If Fenn is uncomfortable, he knows that we'll leave. If he gets to a point where he's really uncomfortable, he knows that that's an option for him. And it's the same thing with us and people. If we know that we have a choice about a situation, we're gonna feel a lot better rather than being like forced into it. Even though in this setting, you know, being forced into it is us exploring a park, which doesn't sound very scary, but to a dog like Fenn, that can be really intensely scary. So making sure that before we do this kind of stuff, knowing that he has an out, that's another tip that I have. And you can build up your car as a portable safety zone for this. I hope this was helpful for those of you that do have nervous and fearful dogs, to at least get a start. This is definitely not everything by any stretch of the imagination that I do to help these guys. I love working with nervous and fearful dogs. I've got one myself. And it's definitely one of my passions. And you know, this stuff will give you a start. It won't be all of it, that's for certain. So again, if you're looking for help with some of this stuff, seek out a professional trainer in your area. I've also got my email attached to my YouTube account, so if you're looking for help with your dog, I'd be happy to help you guys. And you can shoot me an email and I can send you some information about different stuff with that. So hope this was helpful, and good luck getting a start with your dogs at home. Sleepy? Yeah? Where's your bowl? Yeah, good boy. Good job, buddy.